The basis of any great television character is an inherent fundamental need or desire that drives their every action. Most shows introduce their characters with a goal, something related to the premise of the show that helps drive the story. But regardless of the story, it's the basic human need, the root of what each character wants, that keeps audiences coming back year after year, season after season. Love, safety, and belonging. The Office has been heralded as one of the best comedies in American television history. I'm going to break down some of the fundamental desires of 5 major characters and outline how that desire contributes to their behavior in the show. We're going to be discussing Michael, Dwight, Jim, Pam, and Andy. Michael, regional manager of Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch, is the centralmost character in The Office. Most of the episodic storylines in seasons 1 through 7, after which Steve Carell left the show, revolve around Michael and how the rest of the Office responds to his antics. At his core, Michael wants the personal fulfillment of the American dream. Michael is not a titan of the industry. He's a regional manager of a mid-level paper company, and almost everyone else around him is aware of this reality. His constant, almost desperate attempts to glamorize Dunder Mifflin as a professional paradise, or his co-workers as his family, stems directly from his need to affirm that he holds a position of importance and influence. Take season 2's Dundies episode. Michael orchestrates an amateur award show program where he doles out dozens of trophies for frivolous accomplishments. He experiences a number of setbacks, from having the event be funded by the company, to production issues, to hecklers. But it's imperative that he lives up to this tradition because in his mind, the significance that he associates with these awards correlate to the significance he wants to associate with his job. Michael is all about perception over reality. He does not necessarily need this job to be important, he just needs to perceive it that way, and he needs others to as well. Michael has reached the highest rung in the corporate ladder that's realistically possible for him. Though given his season 3 attempt at a promotion into corporate, as well as his season 5 departure to start his own paper company, there's some part of him that wants more. So maybe Michael does see Dunder Mifflin as a mid-range prison like Jim does, but unlike Jim, Michael struggles daily to keep from acknowledging or facing that fact. The American dream not only consists of the ideal self-sufficient job, but also the all-American family. Michael has a completely delusional approach to his romantic relationships. In his mind, he has framed being regional manager as the perfect job. Now he just needs the perfect wife and the perfect kids to complete the perfect picture. Michael is blinded by his desperate need to have a family, especially given his age. In season 3's Christmas episode, Michael is in such a rush to secure himself and his girlfriend Carol's life that he photoshops himself over Carol's ex-husband in a picture of her with her kids. It never crosses his mind that she might perceive this act as obsessive or inappropriate. He's too blinded by his own perception. With Jan, Michael's not concerned with how dysfunctional and problematic they are as a couple. All he cares about is the perception of being with a successful, beautiful woman like her. That perception is not reality, and that notion will continue to be true when it comes to Michael. So now let's talk about Dwight. Dwight is a character defined by his potential. Unlike Michael, Dwight has no delusions about his job at Dunder Mifflin. He plays along with Michael and his antics as his faithful number 2, but only with the hope that one day he'll ascend to number 1. When Michael is not attached to that number 1 position, when catering to Michael ceases to be in Dwight's best interest, he willingly abandons Michael in the name of self-preservation. This happens in season 3 when he conspires to take Michael's job, and in season 5 when he does not follow Michael after he leaves Dunder Mifflin. Dwight's need to live up to his potential stems from the emotional neglect he most likely received as a child. He often talks about the tough manual labor he was subjected to growing up on a beet farm, and how the only time he received any approval or encouragement was in relation to the work he did. The love he received was always conditional, which as an adult translates to do more for people, work hard at your job, and you'll be rewarded. While it may seem like Dwight loves Dunder Mifflin as a company, what he really loves is the success he has within it. When it appears he's gotten as far as he can in the company, and that his talents aren't being adequately used, he's quick to jump ship. We see this in season 8 when he travels to Tallahassee to interview for an upper-level management job within their new company Sabre. He's willing to play his position as long as upward mobility is at least a possibility, but the second it becomes otherwise, it's in his nature to adapt. His eye is and will always be on his future. Now when we first meet Jim, he's in a rut. He's in a job that he hates, forced to work with a girl he's in love with who happens to be engaged. He strikes us as the kind of kid that got this job right after college, probably only meaning to stay for a year or two until he found something better. Then he blinked and several years went by. Jim's life is pretty average and he clearly craves excitement, just not the adrenaline pumping kind of excitement. Jim knows what a mid-level prison Dunder Mifflin is, and he knows how average his life is. Throughout the show, besides being with Pam, his primary goal is just to make one day different from the next, some kind of deviation from the soul-crushing workplace normality, whether it be a prank on Dwight or a moment with Pam or an activity with his coworkers. Many of the Office extracurricular activities are conceived from a sheer of boredom. Season 2's Office Olympics happened because he got so bored that he could barely stay awake. But instead of powering through it like the rest of his coworkers, he gets them all involved in distracting him. Same thing happens in Season 2's Fire Drill episode, where he spearheads a game of Desert Island. While Jim hates his job, he always knows when it's time to adapt. In Season 6, he specifically pursues the regional manager position and ends up being co-manager of the branch. While Dunder Mifflin is not his job of choice and certainly not a job he enjoys, Jim knows how to use his affable personality to get the best out of whatever situation he's in. It's what sets him apart from Dwight. Pam is a character who's played it safe all her life. She wants to succeed, of course, but more than that, she doesn't want to fail. Failure, in fact, is her biggest fear and the reason she has such a difficult time putting herself out there. We see this all throughout seasons 1 through 3 when she struggles with her feelings for Jim. There were multiple opportunities for her to address these feelings, like the end of the Dundies episode when she and Jim are outside the car, the Booze Cruise episode, and more directly the Casino Night episode when Jim actually reveals his feelings to Pam. She is absolutely terrified of making a mistake or making the wrong decision, which often leaves her in less than ideal situations. Her 3-year engagement to Roy was a direct result of her unwillingness to admit she made a mistake in agreeing to marry him. Her multiple rejections of Jim, even though it was clear she had feelings for him. Even the way she had to push herself to pursue her art despite her constant feelings of inadequacy. Her transformation comes when she realizes her habit of playing it safe has cost her years of her life and a job she doesn't want, with a man she doesn't love. And while we're glad that she found her courage to take risks, we're Team Karen over here, because they did her dirty. And finally, Andy. Andy has a complicated relationship with his family. He's played second fiddle to his younger brother, who replaced him as his father's junior when he was born. We see in Season 8's Garden Party episode, Andy comes from an extremely cold and judgmental family, whom he could never please. On the surface, it appears as if Andy seeks approval, but what he really wants is a sense of belonging. He never found his place within his family, and it's haunted him into adulthood. He proposes to Angela, even though her answer and interest in him are bored and resigned at best. Like Michael, he's willing to believe his perception of this relationship over his reality if it means he gets the family he's always wanted. But unlike Michael, Andy was never trying to live up to some unrealistic ideal. What he wants is realistic, it's tangible. From the moment Andy is introduced, we get a sense that he craves acceptance. That's why he forces the nickname Tuna onto Jim within days of knowing him, trying to generate a false sense of familiarity. And when he does experience rejection, what results are violent, childlike temper tantrums. We see this in the Season 3 episode when Michael's rejection and Jim's agitation makes him punch a hole through the office wall. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll get more into the desires of more secondary characters on the show.